Hey everybody, Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video, and in today's video we're going to be going over the first real set of Ikoria spoilers. Before we get into today's video guys, let me please ask y'all to like, share, and subscribe. It would mean so much to me and I would greatly appreciate it. I was looking at my statistics the other day and it says that over 95% of people that watch my videos are not subscribers. So please, guys, help me fix that number. But without further ado, let's please get into the first spoiler of the day with Luminous Broodmoth. 2 generic, 2 white mana for a creature, insect, mythic rare. It has flying. It says, whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, with a flying counter on it. And it is a 3/4. So this shows off our first new mechanic of the set, which is keyword counters. I had to make sure I was saying that correctly. Keyword counters. So keyword counters are awarded to a creature by text like this. And basically, for the rest of the time that creature is on the field, just like with any other counter, they have that counter, and they have that ability. So, they have flying, death touch, vigilance, lifelink, whatever the case may be, which in this case is flying. So, the first card this card made me think about was Mystic Decree. It says all creatures lose flying and island walk. Now, I know this isn't standard legal, but this is the first card I really thought about for either Commander or Legacy, and here's why. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, including itself, so if all creatures lose flying, this creature doesn't have flying, it's continuously bringing back every single creature that dies. That's pretty good. I would like to mention that this also brings back tokens. I didn't think it did, but I saw somebody else talking about this, and yes, it brings back tokens, so this will be insane for a token build. Excuse me. The next card this made me think about was actually in the standard, Colossus Hammer, which again makes the equipped creature lose flying. Yes, the +10/+10 is good and insane, but the whole point is to make it lose flying so that way it brings itself back so it can keep bringing other creatures back and so on and so forth. Of course, the equip cost is insane for this, but I'm hoping that we can build a deck in standard around this. And to help us build a deck around this in standard is Saphara, Sky's Blade. She gives other creatures you control with flying indestructible, which is the cool thing, because if Luminous Broodmoth is making all these non-flying creatures have flying all of a sudden, then now they're also flying and indestructible. But on top of that, you may pay 1 white mana and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying, rather than paying Saphara's converted mana cost. So you can use all these new creatures to help you cast Saphara, including Luminous Broodmoth. I really think this card is going to be cool, and I'm very interested. It had to be my first card of the day because I'm so interested in brewing around it. But let's get into our next one, guys. The second card of the day, Vivian, Monster's Advocate. 3 generic, 2 green mana, legendary planeswalker Vivian. It is of mythic rare rarity. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Her +1 ability. Create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Put your choice of a vigilance counter, a reach counter, or a trample counter onto it. The -2 ability. When you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. And it is, of course, 3 loyalty to bring out. So this reminded me of a spell, Soul Diviner. Soul Diviner helps you with that +1 ability, remove a counter like a reach or a trample or a vigilance counter from a creature and draw a card. So Soul Diviner and other cards that I don't have up here at the moment don't care about what counter they're removing, just as long as they remove a counter to do whatever they're doing. And so that's going to be kind of cool, like a soul tie counter deck. Not necessarily looking for +1/+1 counters like in the past, but keyword counters too. The next card this made me think of, and I know you guys are going to laugh, Ornithopter. So I was thinking about it. What is the lamest way you could use her -2 ability? Because there's a lot of cool ways you can use her -2 ability, but the lamest way is to play a 1-drop and just get an Ornithopter for free. But yes, guys, that -2 ability is actually super good, and I think that this card will be cool. I like that you can go ahead and instantly -2. I like that they're keeping these static abilities that we saw in older Planeswalkers. I do wish that this Mythic Rare had 3 in the static, but that would be too much to ask for, especially when you're looking at the next Planeswalker that we have here. Luca, Coppercoat Outcast. 3 generic, 2 red mana, legendary Planeswalker, Luca. Mythic Rare, +1, exile the top 3 cards of your library. Creature cards exiled this way gain. You may cast this card from exile as long as you control a Luca Planeswalker. -2, exile target creature you control. Then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with higher converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. -7. Each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. That is pretty good. Now, the main things that people always look for in Planeswalkers is, do they draw you cards? Do they give you some type of advantage? Does it protect itself? That's a big thing. Does it protect itself? This card doesn't protect itself. Vivian makes a 3/3 green beast creature, so by that logic, she is a good Planeswalker. This, on the other hand, does not make a token, does not pacify a creature, does not bounce a creature, so it does not necessarily protect itself. But I do think that first ability is card advantage, and that could possibly make it to where he can be playable. That -2 ability is pretty good too, especially if you're getting rid of something. Exile target creature you control. You can get rid of a 0 CMC token, which this is in red, so you could be playing Chandra, the one that makes the 2/1/1 elemental creatures. So you could get rid of one of those that are exiled anyways at the end of the turn and get a good creature out. First thing it made me think of was Evolutionary Leap, which sacrifice a creature, pay 1 green, reveal a card from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. So that's its -2 ability that reminded me of revealing cards from the top until you reach a creature and then just putting it onto the battlefield. Now, of course, Evolutionary Leap does not do that. I was actually looking for another green card I couldn't think of. If you guys know which one I'm talking about, it's sacrificing a creature and then bring the next creature in your graveyard out. I could not for the life of me think of that card. But anyways, leave it in the comment section below, because I'd like to kick myself later, if you know what I mean. I'd like to kick myself. So, the last card this reminded me of is Light Up the Stage with that +1 ability. Light Up the Stage, exiling the top 2 cards of your library, playing it for later. That's exactly what that +1 ability is. And we saw how much people use Light Up the Stage Of course, people would also argue that it's because of the spectacle cost, basically drawing 2 cards for a turn for 1 red mana, not paying 5 mana to do that continuously, as long as it's out. But I do think it'll find a way. I think it's a lot more playable than the Royal Scions that I've never ever seen played. But yeah. Our next spoiler. Snapdax, Apex of the Hunt. 1 generic, 1 red, 1 white, 1 black. That is Mardu colors for you guys. Legendary creature, Dinosaur Cat Nightmare. It is mythic rare. This is actually the collector's edition art, which is going to be more comic booky. In case you guys didn't know, it's going to be very interesting to see the collector's art for this set. But anyways, it has the ability Mutate. Pay 2 generic and a hybrid mana of black or red into white mana. It has double strike. And then it says, whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and you gain 4 life. It's a 3/5. So, the best way I can describe Mutate, other than the video that I just made, that's also going to be coming up, if not already, it will be out shortly, a video that goes over the mechanics of this set. Basically, Mutate says, put this creature on top of another creature that's not human, and that creature's abilities mixes with the creature on top. Now, you can put it on the top or bottom, and it will still mix abilities, but the creature on top is the actual creature, and it keeps the power and toughness of the top creature. So, this creature basically, for lack of a well, for similarity reasons, we'll say, it melds with another creature, or it splices, actually, is probably a better way of putting this. It splices with another creature instead of horizontally, vertically. So this card is going to be pretty cool. Dealing damage is pretty sweet. I was thinking about cards that it would be cool to kind of like mutate this with. One of the cards was Thorn Mammoth. So I've actually been playing a lot of Brawl, and Thorn Mammoth is an insane card in green in Standard right now. Whenever Thorn Mammoth or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, then Thorn Mammoth fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Well, since Snapdax has double strike, when Thorn Mammoth enters the battlefield, or excuse me, if Snapdax and Thorn Mammoth were mutated together, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, Snapdax would be dealing double strike damage to that creature. So it would be able to happen multiple times if you're playing like a token build, and you would just be able to basically wipe out your opponent's creatures. And I like that. I like that idea. Definitely going to keep that. I know it's in 4 colors at that point, but I think it's definitely worth looking at, especially with how it looks right now. Mesmerizing Benthid. This was another one. Basically, the reason I wanted Mesmerizing Benthid is because it had hexproof. As long as you control those illusions that it has. So that's the reason why I think it would be good to kind of meld together, because then Snapdax would gain the hexproof as long as you had the illusions that were already out, because Mesmerizing Benthid had to be out first. You can mutate it onto Mesmerizing Benthid. So, yeah, just a creature with hexproof would be good. That way Snapdax can continue to grow bigger. That's going to be really the issue with mutated creatures, is that they will get bigger, they'll get bigger, but they will be the biggest target as well for spot removal, like, I don't know, Murderous Rider with his Swift End. Yes, y'all all know who I'm talking about in Standard. Or a Doomblade in Commander, if you play Commander. Our next card is Illuna, Apex of Wishes. It is 2 generic, 1 green, 1 blue, 1 red for Teamer color. Legendary creature, beast, elemental, dinosaur. It is mythic rare. It also has mutate for 3 generic, a hybrid mana of a red or a green, and 2 blue mana. has flying and trample. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand, and it is a 6/6. The very first thing this reminded me of was cascading. This is lovely. Like, the idea that Cascade might get in here. When you play the spell, remove cards from the top of your library from the game until you remove an online card from the that costs less. That's the only difference, really. And you may play it without paying its mana cost. Yeah, that's exactly what Illuna Apex of Wishes made me think. So, I'm excited to see how this card does. The other card was Aminachu's Augury, and that's exile on top 8 cards of your library, and then you're playing cards for free, basically, as the comparison there. Playing cards off the top of your library is just super good, especially if there's a way in Standard. I know there's a way in Historic to see what's on top of your library fairly easily. Well, actually, with Vivian Reed, you're able to see what's on top of your library. So if you're able to set it up and put something on top of your library, then Aluna becomes very valuable. This is going to be a cool commander to actually brew around, because then you can mutate her with that as well. In fact, I'd love to actually see what the rules are about mutation in Commander. But anyways, let's continue on with our next card. Umori, I believe is how you say that. Umori, the Collector. 2 generic and a hybrid mana of black or green, and then another hybrid mana of black or green. Legendary creature, ooze, rare. It has companion, so companion, geez, they are killing it with these new mechanics. Companion is basically one card and only one copy of that card that's in your sideboard, does not count towards your original deck number. And basically, if your starting deck, your 60 cards that you start with in a match, and not in a game but in a match, meets the companion deck building guidelines, which for this creature is each an online card in your starting deck shares a card type. Then this deck, then you can use this card as a companion, which means that you can play it from your sideboard once per that game. And remember, it's only one copy and it's only once per the game, but then that card becomes also a portion of that game. It goes in the stack like normal, so it can be countered, and you do have to reveal it before the game starts. So just to keep that in mind, super interesting, the whole companion, but that's for, again, my other video on mechanics. Super interesting though. So basically, you can have it as a companion if each non-land card in your starting deck shares a card type, but also as Amore, the Collector, enters the battlefield, choose a card type. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Now, it says card type, and if you're looking at this, look up here at the legendary creature ooze. Card type is not ooze. Card type is the legendary creature half of this hyphen. So, here's my thought process with this. It is not, and I repeat, not going to be hard to build a deck around Umori, however you want to say it. If you want to use it as a companion, which, by the way, in Commander you are allowed to use companions, and this is how. Traxos, which is actually an historic, would be a great example of how to completely just get around this mechanic. Legendary artifact creature. Look for these that have multiple different things, and on top of that, every single card type has a legendary. So legendary is probably going to be the best way to get this off, is to have just legendary cards in your deck. Now that's gonna be hard to play with, don't get me wrong, but if you can pull it off, it would be very good, especially because every legendary that you have is 1 generic less to cast. So there's one in Standard right now. We have these legendary enchantment creatures. That's 3 different types you can choose from right there, to have this as a companion. So I think this card will definitely see play. This particular card, as far as companions go, will definitely see play because it's easier to manipulate as a companion. but also it's a lot easier to target something like legendary, like creature, since we have all these enchantment creatures now. So I think it'll be interesting. Definitely keep an eye out on it. The next card is my personal, this is going to be my commander for the set right here. I decided it today. Gyruda, Doom of Depths. And it is 4 generic, a hybrid mana of blue or black, and another hybrid mana of blue or black. A legendary creature, Demon Kraken, and it is a rare. It has companion, so the deck requirement to have this as your companion is your starting deck contains only cards with even converted mana cost. Yes, no winnowers over here. When Garuda enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Put a creature card with an even converted mana cost from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control, and it is a 6/6. Yes, you still, every single time this commander enters the battlefield, you steal a creature with an even converted mana cost from your opponents, or yourself if you want. You cheat it out like that, and I think that's going to be so fun to build around. Now, it does say put a creature card with an even converted mana cost from among those cards, so it doesn't just say from the graveyard. Otherwise, this card would be super broken, but it does say from among them. So here's a way to definitely make sure that you're consistently entering the battlefield with Garuda here. As having Thassa bounce it at the end of your turn, and it's on color. So there you go. It's not going to do much towards Thassa's devotion, but hey, that's okay. Another way is to just have Yarok out, doubling up your ETB effects. Pretty good. So Garuda comes down and you mill 8 cards, so does your opponents, and you bring out 2 possibly beater creatures. So that would be fun. I would like to mention that Thassa, you can get Thassa out herself, but Yarok, you sadly cannot. And of course, if you use Yarok in your deck, you cannot have him as a companion. I don't care. This card is just so pretty cool. So cool. Definitely belongs in the Yarok Commander deck, by the way. If you play Commander and you have Yarok, definitely bring this in there, because that would be super sweet. Our next card, Lutri, the Spellchaser. 1 generic and hybrid mana of blue or red, and another hybrid mana of blue or red. Legendary creature, Elemental Otter. It's an elemental otter, everybody. It is a rare, and it says companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. So, yes, this is actually in the wrong colors to me, because the Guardian Project is a card. It basically says if you haven't played a card with a shared name already this game, of a card that you cast, and you draw a card, but that's in green. So I would definitely play Teamer with this. But anyways, so it has flash, and then it says when Lutri the Spellchaser enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy, and is a 3/2. So yes, it has flash, so you can put it on the stack, that way that you can copy a spell, but also Storm Conduit can deal some good damage with Lutri coming in. Niv Mizzet Piran being able to basically what I was saying here was that if you were copying spells, you're going to be in the Spell Slinger deck, and you can definitely put this card in a Niv Mizzet Piran Commander deck. And you can have him as a companion, because Commander is a singleton format. It's a singleton format. And then, of course, Repeated Reverberation would just be a really cool card to copy over and over again, basically. And getting Storm Conduit off this way would be probably the ideal way of doing this. So I think that would be, honestly, a great build around to be able to flash in Lutri after playing Repeated Reverberation, after having Storm Conduit off, and then just copying your Repeated Reverberation over and over again. Would be pretty sweet. So anyways, our next card, Keruga the macrosage. the macrosage. It is 3 generic, 1 green or blue mana, and another hybrid mana of green or blue. And it says legendary creature dinosaur hippo, and it is a rare. It has companion, and I do apologize for this. I tried to pull the best picture out, and it looks like it's not the best. Your starting deck contains only cards with converted mana cost 3 or greater, and land cards. So this is actually not that hard to build around if you think about it. There's definitely ways of doing this already. I heard somebody saying a Fires deck, Fires of Invention deck already doesn't have a lot of CMC 3 or less cards in it, so that's another way of building around it. But when Keruga the macrosage enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other permanent you control with converted mana cost 3 or greater, and it's a 5/4 for 5. Very decent. It's a hippo dinosaur, which is kind of cool. Looks like a stegosaurus, but a hippo. So yeah, I was thinking about putting this in some type of Simic deck, but only using cards again with 3 or more converted mana costs. But even then, like, there's a bunch of cards that have 3 or more, and you can just use this as a simple draw spell off of a creature. So, excuse me. Koira's as an example, and yes, I was actually thinking about making the draw greater on this by having a lot of ley lines. And for instance, if you just want to go with Simic, you can have 8 between a ley line of anticipation and a ley line of abundancy in your standard deck, and then that's 8 draw when you it enters the battlefield. So sadly, when it enters the battlefield. Going back and looking at it, also Thassa would be a great way to let's see if I can find Thassa real quick. Thassa would be a great way to continuously draw cards off the hippo. And she triggers him herself. So, good cards all around here. Sorry, I'm going to go all the way back here. But let's go to our next spoiler of the day. And that would be Titanoth Rex. It is 7 generic and 2 green mana. Creature, dinosaur, beast. And it is uncommon. It has trample, and it has cycling. Yet again, another mechanic that is coming back. Pay 1 generic and 1 green. Discard this card. Draw a card. Whenever you cycle Titanoth Rex, put a trample counter on target creature you control. So it's basically put a creature gains trample until it dies, and you draw a card for 2 mana. Not bad. And then, of course, it's an 11/11 trample by itself for 8 mana, for a modest 8 mana. So not bad. I think this card would definitely see play just for the cycling, and then late game beater aspect is pretty cool. We have Pollywog Symbiote. 1 generic and 1 blue. Creature, frog, uncommon. Each creature spell you cast costs 1 generic less to cast it if it has mutate. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if it has mutate, draw a card, then discard a card. That is not a May ability. It always knew it was destined to be more than a frog. So yeah, I don't necessarily like having to, not getting a May, but having to draw a card and then discard a card. But I do appreciate being able to pay 1 generic less to cast if it has mutate. That's definitely good, especially if they bring some good mutate cards, which they already have. So Void Beckoner, 6 generic and 2 black mana. Creature, nightmare horror, uncommon, has death touch, has cycling, 2 generic and a black. Discard this card, draw a card. Whenever you do, Void Beckoner puts a death touch counter on target creature you control. So for 3 mana, target creature gets death touch. Could be good, especially if you can put a death touch counter on first strikers. I always love doing that, just because you can deal 1 damage per creature at first strike speed, and basically wipe creatures out a lot. So, anyways, I don't necessarily like the body for this. An 8/8 for 8 with death touch is meh, but the whole cycling aspect is pretty good. I played back in Omnicat, and I played back in Hour of Devastation when cycling was the last really in this sets. And cycling wasn't that great back then. I didn't play it to its fullest ability, but it wasn't that great back then. And so I like that they're trying to make it good now by at least using these what do they call them, keyword counters. So yeah. Huntmaster Liger, 3 generic, 1 white, creature cat, uncommon, has mutate. And this is what mutate actually reads. If you cast a spell for its mutate cost, put it over or under target non-human creature you own. They mutate into the creature on top, plus all abilities from underneath. And you can mutate multiple creatures onto the same creature if I didn't get that across already. So, whenever this creature mutates, other creatures you control get plus X until end of turn, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. So, very cool card, begging to be mutated multiple times, made into that big creature. Again, if you're going to do that, make sure it has some type of protection. I am very worried that this set's going to tank just because of that. But thankfully, you know, companion, cycling, there was another one I can't think of right now. Companion and cycling. So there's other stuff to go off of here. Other than mutate. Fully grown, 2 generic and a green, instant, common. Target creature gets +3 until end of turn. Put a trample counter on it. One day I woke up and knew I had nothing left to teach her. So now I ride on her shoulders and follow where she leads. Gustin Wild Bonder. So I love the flavor text with the art there. Yeah, +3/+3 for 3 mana, but gain a trample counter on it. So could see play. Kind of bad though. This card makes me excited for cycling. So, Drannith Stinger, 1 generic, 1 red, creature, human, wizard, common. Whenever you cycle another card, Drannith Stinger deals 1 damage to each opponent. And of course, it has cycling of 1 generic itself. The first line of defense and the last person you want to anger, 2/2, is its power and toughness. So, I like this card because, It basically pings damage for just cycling, and that's pretty good, especially if you can get multiple copies of it out. But you're not going to use this as your primary way of killing people. I'm just going to be honest now. You're not going to try to cycle them to death with your 4 copies of Drannith Stinger and try to continuously copy over and over again Drannith Stinger. No, you're not going to do it, but it's a byproduct of the actual deck you're going to be making is dealing damage, and we all know what a constant pinger of 1 damage is annoying and wins games. So I'm very excited to see if Drannith Stinger and the Cycle deck do good together. Our next card, Cloudpiercer. 4 generic and a red for a creature dinosaur. Has mutate of 3 generic and a red. Has reach. Whenever this creature mutates, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card, and it's a 5/4. I like that it has reach because some of these creatures don't even have flying. They have all these cool things like double strike, lifelink, death touch, but they don't have flying. And so being able to get reach to make sure that you're not getting, flown over is pretty good. Possibly could see some play. I'm a little worried about its mana cost. Possibly could see some play. Gloom Pangolin. Gloom Pangolin. Oh, is a pangolin an anteater? That's really cool. I'm assuming. I don't know. Please don't crucify me. 2 generic and a black creature, nightmare pangolin, common. They say it survives on a purely bioluminescent diet. Okay. Sorry, for some reason it's choppy right there. It's only active during the darkest of Indatha nights, making verification highly challenging. Garnet, Sky Cell Zoologist, and it's a 1/5. It's just a vanilla creature, but I love to see the flavor text and the the creature type pangolin. But without further ado, guys, that is all the spoilers for today. So let me ask you guys once again to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. It means a lot to me. I hope you guys stick around. I will be on it every day of spoiler season, no matter what. I sat through 2 hours of computer complications tonight to make sure I get this video to you guys tonight. But anyways, guys, Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.